ever sat in front of the charts wondering, what's wrong with me? Not the market, not even the strategy. You. Because you've watched the videos, you bought the courses, you've changed indicators more times than you can count. You've had winning trades, but somehow you keep giving the money back. And every loss feels bigger than dollars. It feels personal on the inside. You hesitate when you should enter. You chase when you should wait. You hold losers because you don't want to be wrong. And you cut winners because you're afraid they'll disappear. And maybe the most painful part is this. You know what to do, but somehow you just can't seem to do it. So you start thinking maybe you're undisciplined. Maybe you're too emotional. Maybe trading just isn't for you. But what if the problem isn't that you're broken? What if you've been trying to build something that was never meant to be built alone? Because that's exactly where I was. I approached trading in a vacuum. I thought another strategy would fix me. I thought another indicator would save me. But I discovered that my biggest enemy wasn't the market. It was the fear. It was the isolation. It was the emotional baggage. All of this I was bringing in to every trade. And when I invited God into my trading strategy, everything changed. Not overnight, not magically. But I finally stopped trading for validation and started trading with purpose. And that's exactly what I want to share with you today. Before you bury your gift, before you quit, and before you convince yourself that you're not cut out for this, there's something you need to hear from one of Jesus's most powerful parables. It's the parable of the talents. His master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." Matthew 25:21. The story starts with a man preparing to go on a journey called 3 servants together and entrusted each of them with a portion of his wealth. One received 5 talents, another 2, and another 1, each according to his ability. And this can be found in Matthew 25:14 through 30. The story begins with an important truth. God does not expect everyone to start with the same resources, the same opportunities, or the same responsibilities. Comparison is unnecessary. The question is not whether someone has more than you, but what will you do with what has been placed in your hands? So the servant with 5 talents immediately went to work and doubled what he had. The servant with 2 talents did the same. Neither waited for perfect conditions, complete certainty, or someone else's approval. You see, they understood that growth requires movement. Progress rarely comes from possessing more. It comes from faithfully using what you already have. Small acts of discipline, repeated consistency often produce extraordinary results over time. But the 3rd servant, you see, he viewed his master through the lenses of fear. Instead of investing his talent, he buried it in the ground to protect himself from loss. He became more concerned with avoiding mistakes than with creating growth. You see, fear convinced him that preserving what he had was wisdom, but fear disguised itself as caution. Many people live this way. They bury their dreams, their gifts, their opportunities and callings because they fear criticism, they fear rejection, and they fear failure. But when the master returned, he asked each servant to give an account. So the first two servants were not praised because they produced identical results. You see, one gave 5 talents and the other gave 2. But they were praised because they were faithful. The master responded to both with the same words. Well done, good and faithful servant. You see, heaven's measure is not comparison, but faithfulness. Success is not being someone else. It is stewarding your assignment with diligence and integrity. But the third servant presented excuses rooted in fear and blame. Instead of taking responsibility, he focused on his perception of the master and justified his inactivity. The tragedy was not that he lost money. You see, he lost nothing. The tragedy was that he never tried. Opportunities are often lost not because of failure, but because of paralysis. Potential that is never exercised slowly becomes buried beneath excuses and self-protection. Jesus used this parable to teach that God expects growth from what he entrusts to us. Whether the gift is influence, money, wisdom, relationships, leadership, or time, we are called to multiply rather than merely maintain. The principle extends beyond finances. Healthy relationships require investment. Faith requires action. Emotional healing requires participation. Even talents and dreams develop only when they are exercised consistently and courageously. The story of the talents ultimately invites us to stop burying what God has given us. You may not control how much you started with, but you do control what you do next. Fear whispers, protect yourself. Faith answers, put it to work. One day, each of us will give an account. And the greatest reward will not come from having the most, but from hearing the words, well done. The challenge is simple and profound. Don't bury your gift. Invest your life. Multiply what has been entrusted to you and trust God with the outcome. You studied. You watched the video. You bought the indicators. You even promised yourself that this time would be different. Yet somehow another trade ends in frustration. Another stop loss gets hit. Another opportunity passes while you hesitate. The pain isn't just about losing money. It's about wondering whether you have what it takes. It's about watching others post profits while you question whether you're falling behind. Like the servants in Jesus' parable, every trader begins with different resources, different account sizes, and different experiences. But the market doesn't ask you to compare yourself to others. It asks what you will do with what you've been given. Many traders suffer because they believe success requires a bigger account, more capital, or some secret strategy that nobody else has. But the truth is often much more painful. The problem isn't a lack of opportunity. It's a lack of consistent execution. Some traders have 5 talents. Others have 2. But profitable traders learn to work with what they have. They journal. They review. They protect capital. They focus on process. They understand that accounts grow the same way muscles do, through repeated, disciplined effort rather than emotional bursts of inspiration. Then there are traders who have been hurt so badly by losses that their fear becomes their strategy. After blowing accounts, after hearing family members question their dreams, after carrying the weight of financial pressure, they become terrified of making another mistake. They hesitate on good setups. They move stops to avoid being wrong. They exit winners too early, or worse, they stop taking trades altogether. They are no longer trying to grow their capital. They are trying to protect themselves from emotional pain. But a trader whose primary goal is avoiding discomfort often ends up burying his potential. Perhaps the deepest wound in trading is not losing money. It is the regret of knowing you abandoned your own rules. You saw the setup, but fear talked you out of it. You entered late, but greed convinced you to chase. You refused to accept a loss and watched it become a devastating one. The pain of losing is real, yes, but the pain of self-betrayal cuts deeper. It leaves you questioning your confidence, your discipline, and sometimes even your identity. You don't just feel like you lost a trade. You feel like you've failed yourself. But profitable traders are not necessarily smarter. They are simply faithful. They do not need every trade to win. They do not compare their chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 20. They understand that consistency matters more than intensity. They know what a small account managed well is more valuable than a large account managed emotionally. Heaven's measure was faithfulness. Remember that. And the market rewards something very familiar. Not perfection, but disciplined execution, repeated over time. The tragedy for many traders is not that they lost money. It's that after enough pain, they stop believing. They jump from strategy to strategy, searching for certainty. They blame market makers, news events, or manipulation. But beneath all the frustration often lies a wounded heart that is afraid to trust the process again. Fear disguises itself as caution, but underneath it whispers, don't try, don't risk, don't. And slowly, dreams that once felt alive become buried beneath disappointment and self-protection. The parable of the talents reminds traders that they are called to multiply, not merely survive. The goal is not to avoid losses. The goal is to become the kind of person who can manage abundance. Every journal entry, every disciplined stop loss, every day you follow your plan, you are multiplying something much greater than money. You are multiplying patience, emotional control, and trust in yourself. Don't bury your gift because of yesterday's losses. The market does not require perfection, it requires faithfulness. And perhaps the greatest account God is trying to grow isn't your brokerage account at all. It's you. For years, I approached trading in a vacuum. I thought success was simply about finding the perfect indicator, the perfect strategy, or the perfect entry. I isolated myself and carried every loss, every doubt, and every fear alone. When I lost money, I blamed myself. When I won, I feared giving it back. Trading became exhausting because I was trying to build confidence without community and pursue prosperity without purpose. I discovered that isolation is expensive. It amplifies emotions, distorts perspective, and turns every red day into a personal crisis. Everything began to change when I intentionally invited God into my trading journey. I stopped viewing the market as my provider and started seeing it as a tool. I learned that my identity wasn't determined by green candles or red candles. I discovered that discipline is spiritual, patience is spiritual, and emotional regulation is spiritual. I began to understand that God cared far more about who I was becoming than how much I was making. Ironically, as I focused less on chasing money and more on developing wisdom, my decision-making improved. That realization transformed the way I approached losses. Instead of seeing every setback as proof that I wasn't good enough, I started seeing them as opportunities for growth. I stopped trying to control every outcome and focused on controlling what I could: my mindset, my process, and my emotions. Trading no longer felt like a lonely battle. It became a journey of stewardship, faith, and continuous improvement. The market stopped exposing my worth and started revealing my habits. That's why I created this community. Not because I have all the answers, but because I know firsthand how dangerous it is to walk this road alone. We need people who understand the emotional side of trading. We need accountability. We need encouragement. We need reminders that our value is bigger than our portfolios. Together, we can learn how to trade with structure, patience, and purpose while growing both financially and spiritually. Inside our community, we provide daily SPY levels to help traders approach the market with preparation instead of panic. We host challenges and conversations designed to strengthen trading psychology and develop consistency. More importantly, we remind each other that discipline matters more than predictions and that long-term success is built one decision at a time. You don't have to figure everything out yourself. Join us in the community today. I also want to invite you to download our free trading Bible study. It was created for traders who want more than just charts and indicators. If you've ever wondered how faith applies to fear, greed, patience, losses, and waiting, this guide will help you see that God has always been interested in the condition of the heart. Trading is not just about multiplying money. It's about multiplying wisdom, peace, and stewardship. If this message spoke to you, I would love to hear from you. Comment below and share where you are in your trading journey. What has been your biggest struggle? Fear, impatience, over trading, something else? Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss future videos and join our growing community where faith and trading come together. You don't have to trade in a vacuum anymore. Let's grow together one day, one trade, and one lesson at a time. You've got this. Peace and blessings, Dr. O.